Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. Welcome to Real News Live. It is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday. I am your host, Mike Barra, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Joined, as I always am, by the usual crew. We got everybody back. We got the band back together again. It's like Andy Taylor coming back to Duran Duran. Dr. Brooks Agnew has rejoined us. I am drinking Glen Rannoch Scotch whiskey with a splash of Dr. Pepper tonight. And Brooks, how you doing? What are you drinking? And how was your week off from the horrible duty of doing this show?
I was actually in a county hearing to get a variance for my property project. I got the variance. It took 2 hours, but I finally got it, so everything's good to go. So it was worth missing the program to get that variance because it frees up about $150,000 of money for me. So that's good.
That's nice.
And I'm drinking water.
It's always good to have an extra $150,000. The man immediately below him is TV, not TV's Blake Wally.
I tried to hit enter by accident.
It's just TV. TV has joined us.
Yeah, I think so.
TV used to hang out at a lot of Diddy parties in LA. TV's Blake Wally. There he is.
Hello.
Has joined us. TV's Blake Wally. Thanks for being here, Blake. How you doing? What are you drinking? And when does the strip club open tonight?
I am doing great, and it's awesome to be here. It's 8 o'clock here now. 10 o'clock is when the festivities are we're gonna open the doors. So
open the doors.
Watch for that. Yes.
All right, and immediately below me, although only in spirit and on the screen. In fact, if you want to be on top, Steve, I'll let you be on top for just a little while. Steve Doran, the most toxically masculine member of the crew, the guy who taught everybody in Hollywood how to shoot guns. Steve L. Doran, the trail boss. Steve, how you doing tonight? What are you drinking? I'm sure it's something healthy.
Doing fantastic. Drinking water with lemon in it and getting ready to go on the road again.
Really? Where are you headed?
Tomorrow I'm going to be down in Little Rock, and then I'll be in Tennessee the following day.
All right. In accordance with the Doge guidelines, we are now all going to report 5 things we did this week in order to advance the cause of patriotism across the USA. So here are my 5 things. Number 1, I shitposted 118 times on Monday. Number 2, I shitposted Democrats 113 times on Tuesday. Number 3, I helped push to get the Epstein files out and to the general public. Number 4, I fed the pigeons here despite being reported by some dickbag to my HOA. And so they've now sent me a letter. So you know what I'm going to do, dickbag, just in case you're watching? I'm going to go out at night when you're not watching and nobody can see and turn off my back porch light and leave food for the pigeons for the next day. So fuck you. And number 5, I hit on a bored, lonely housewife today at the grocery store and got followed home. So that's my 5 accomplishments for the week. Brooks, what are your 5 accomplishments for the week under the Doge guidelines?
Let's see. I finally got Glands of Angels published, so that's good. It's out. It's selling, and I'm going to go on Coast to Coast, I think, May 3rd. And so that'll get promoted out nicely.
Definitely.
I got my variance for my property. That's item number 2. I shitposted Pam Bondi, I think, 94 times to release the Epstein files that are sitting on her desk.
Yeah.
And that's about it. That's all the great accomplishments for this week.
Well, I don't know if that's going to cut it because you're supposed to have 5 things that you.
Okay. So I laid 500 feet of wire in my house, and I got about 500 feet to go.
Very masculine.
I'll be ready for my rough-in inspection.
And TV's Blake Wally. Can you list us 5 things that you accomplished this week on the job? Follow the Doge guidelines.
Well, I think I've done 3 shows. I created new overlays and graphics for those shows. I also did a lot of shit posting, and I've reinstated my TikTok account and done a lot of video highlights. I'm planning to do at least 30 videos in 30 days, and we'll see if I can actually break through the algorithms.
30 videos in 30 days. That will be interesting to see if you
Yeah.
do that. And Steve Doran, you're a former government employee, a former high-ranking government employee with a high security clearance. Can you tell us in a non-classified way what you did? What 5 things you accomplished this week under the Doge guidelines?
On Monday, I tested out several weapons and I was shooting.
Patriotic.
On Tuesday, I cleaned out the pantry and canned a bunch of food that needed to be canned. And in between waiting for the jars to come out of the water bath, shit posted on every Democratic site that I could get my hands on, and was as rude and obnoxious as I could possibly be.
Yes.
On Wednesday, I took my truck in, my farm truck in, because someone broke the back window out of it by throwing a trash bag that had something heavy in it in the back of the truck. Got that repaired. And today I picked it up and called the dentist and took 2 or 3 naps and shit posted at least 50 times.
Well, I only took 1 nap today. I ate too much Chinese food at lunch, and I'm like, sometimes you got to take advantage, Blake, of just being retired and say, I don't have to fucking do anything right now. I'm just gonna go crash. And
In fact, it is so wonderful because I go on Facebook and I say the most hideously obnoxious things to morons, and they don't take it down. I love it.
I'd snuggle with my kitty and just have a great time. Yeah.
I know what you mean, Mike. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Blake.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, in the last couple of years, I understand the phenomenon now, the food coma. Yeah. Now that I've gotten older, I don't have the metabolism. So that does happen. If I eat like the normal amounts of food that I used to eat in the past, I got to take a nap. It's just like my body shuts down. I got to go.
It is a natural body rhythm. And this is why in Spanish speaking countries like Spain and Italy, even and France, what they do is they work till about noon or 1 o'clock. They go have a big lunch, and then they siesta from 2 to 4 or 5 and come back and work till 8 o'clock at night, and then go out and drink wine. So it's kind of a more natural rhythm than the way we do
at 10 o'clock at night. They usually don't get in until about 2 a.m.
Yeah. And so that was.
Did you all know, since you were talking about shit posting, did you know that red is the past tense of read, as in Joy Reid?
Yeah, Joy Reid got fired today. This week, Joy Reid got fired. I also forgot. I may save this for next week for my 5 accomplishments under Doge next week. But I also posted something that made all of the MILF Mafia really mad on my Facebook page. Once again, I posted, it's not that men can't make women happy. Maybe it's that women don't want to be happy. Anybody think about that? How many women do you know you ever been married to one? She ever happy? No. If you're too nice to her, she's not happy. If you're too mean to her, she's not happy.
If you say you look nice today.
Oh my God.
So I
didn't look nice. Does that mean I look fat? I mean, literally.
I did look nice yesterday.
You know exactly what my response would be to that. If I paid somebody a compliment and they said, "Oh, do I look fat?" I'd go, "Absolutely." You need to lose about 30
Oh my God. I had this stripper girl in LA that I was madly in love with for a while, and we had a great thing that went back and forth for quite a bit. One time I was at the club with her, and I'm like, "How? What's going on with you? Your hips have," she was turned about 30, and I'm like, "Your hips got a little bit wider, it's like you got this womanly curve to you now." And she used to have pretty straight hips, and she goes, "Are you calling me fat?" And I'm like, that's when I realized there's no winning. There's no winning. I was actually complimenting her because I like a little curvature in my ladies, and she was like, "Are you calling me fat?" Okay, maybe Mike's gonna go somewhere else tonight.
James, just real quick, James, I'm gonna be in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Tennessee. All right.
Really?
And just to let everybody know, don't forget, I'm
actually now I'm going to go to the Cumberland Gap, and I'm going to pay homage to Blake Wally's former residence.
Okay.
The Mecca that was Blake Wally at one time.
King of Crossville, right?
Yeah, and don't forget, I'm speaking at the Quantum Summit 2, March 8th and 9th in Cape Canaveral, Florida, coming up in a couple of weeks. It'll be fun. I'm going to be there. Mark Z is going to be there. Zester's going to be there. Senator Mark Fincham of Arizona, I believe. Leo Biasucci is going to be there. Dr. Jan Halper, Kerry Cassidy, Laura Eisenhower. A bunch of patriots are going to be there. Mel Carmine is hosting. Michael Jaco with the Hulk Hogan mustache. It's going to be a great event. Get there, get tickets. It's quantumsummit1776.com. I will put that in the chat. And there is a link in the description. Don't forget to go there and get signed up and join us at that. Boy Dogs, I had so much to say in reply. I don't remember which one you are. People have different voices on different names on different platforms. So I'm not sure which one you are. But I mean, again, I just think it's like, I watch videos, guys. And this is something like, if I had time, I would comment about men and women and what's wrong with relationships today and dating today. And people are like, oh, I've been married for 44 years and I'm completely happy. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that's great for you. I was married for 20 years and 10 of it was a fucking nightmare. And I find the single life is better. And I find that it's better with women if you don't buy the car, you lease the car, you lease it for a couple of years. And then if it's giving you trouble, you think about getting the new one. So it's controversial. I admit it. But come on, guys, let's get out there and let's start examining these things, because there's a lot of stuff that's really, really wrong with relationships.
Well, relationships, all this nonsense about soulmates and falling in love instantly, and it's all a bunch of baloney. You got to really get to know somebody. You have to establish a relationship, know who they are, know where they're coming from. Otherwise, it always falls apart.
Yeah, and
always.
Never get in a relationship with a Libra, not a serious one anyway. Okay, let's get to the news. That's what everybody's here for. Donald Trump today signed an executive order, which is going to be explained actually by the actual dialogue. So
Is everybody listening?
Let's just listen in.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening? Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or bill. Go ahead.
One law firm that provided pro bono legal services to the special counsel's office under Jack Smith's leadership was Covington and Burling. As a result of those actions, we're now going to be suspending and putting under review the security clearances for the attorneys and employees at that firm who worked with Jack Smith's team. And we're going to continue holding the people who were responsible for the weaponization of government, who supported it, accountable for what they did.
And you'll be doing this with other firms as time goes by, right?
We're looking at sort of the whole panoply of options.
The weaponization of our system by law firms, even pro bono work they're doing just in order to clog up government, stop government. And nobody knows about it more than me. And hopefully that'll never happen again.
So the Covington and Burlington, is that the?
Covington and Burling.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, may I ask you a question about Europe? So long term, do you plan to maintain the number of U.S. troops
Wait,
stationed?
I just want to savor this one, please. Who would like this pen?
I'll take it.
Yeah, why don't you send it to Jack Smith? A deranged person.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who worry that targeting an individual firm or individuals who, aren't Jack Smith for his actions?
I've been targeted for 4 years, longer than that. So you don't tell me about targeting. I was the target of corrupt politicians for 4 years, and then 4 years after that. So don't talk to me about targeting. Yeah.
Pretty juicy stuff there from President Trump. Guys, I was gonna, just to set this up a little bit more, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Steve. I watched his speech at CPAC on, what was it, Saturday or Sunday? Literally almost the first thing out of his mouth within the first 2 minutes was 2020 voter fraud and 2024 voter fraud. Now, you have to understand, CPAC is a pretty much rhino organization run by Matt Schlapp, who was against Donald Trump in the nominating process. It's not like these And he basically said out to these guys, all you fuckers out there who think there wasn't any voter fraud in 2020, well, and I didn't, and I legitimately lost. Well, guess what? We're not only going to prove that. Sounds like he's going to go after 2024 voter fraud and hopefully 2022 and 2018 and so on and so forth. Steve, do you take those things together as a sign that we really are going to finally get some action on some of this stuff and pay back to some of these fuckers?
Yeah, I really think so. I mean, I wasn't totally sure if he was going to act as quickly as he did. I'm very pleased that the Justice Department is now being headed up. Justice Department and the FBI are being headed up by true professionals who want to get to the bottom of things, who want to prosecute and arrest people for committing crimes. And I'm so happy that Trump is moving very quickly. He's only got 4 years. It sounds, a lot of people think that, oh, he's moving too quickly. It's going to make things fall through the cracks. Things are going to, not come together. But he's only got 4 years. That's not a lot of time. And he has to move quickly to get these things done. And hopefully, like Kash Patel can get the agents together, get rid of the criminals and the traitors to this country, and have good agents out there running around the country and arresting these people for all of the hideous things that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly what's going to happen is this law firm is now out of business in terms of being in business with the government for at least 4 years. And you say he's only got 4 years. Well, I think, in theory, he only has 4 years. In theory, he could have another 12. It just depends on if he challenges certain things in court or not. But that's a second.
Well, I would like to see, because he was sat out for 4 years, I'd like to see him do another 4.
And there's the thing, Steve. I believe if you can prove voter fraud in 2020, which it sounds like he's going to go after in the courts, that he could probably get another term, the option to run for another term. And
But the reality is, at this juncture, he has 4 years, right. And 4 years is not a lot of time to accomplish all the things he wants to accomplish. So he's got to move quickly.
Well, he is moving quickly. Blake, do you think, well, at least he seems to be. That's the question at hand. Blake, do you think we're moving fast enough on some of this stuff? Now, we'll get to the Epstein list and things like that. So don't jump the gun on that stuff, boys. I got a nice setup there where there's so many things happening, so many things to talk about. But Blake, what do you think about this? And do you agree with me that when he said that at CPAC, that he was signaling to the rhino world out there that I'm not letting this drop? And this is another sign to me that he's not going to let this shit drop. You're going to raid my wife's panty drawer. Guess what? Shit's going to go down. So am I right? Or do you think I'm being like, wishful thinking here?
No, I agree. And they made this personal. So in a way, it's almost, I guess you could say it's good that he lost, but they'll dig into it because they've been trying to frame this narrative, like forcing him to admit, can you just admit you lost in 2020? And they keep trying to pull that for their narrative. So it's good that they're going to dig in when they do. But since he lost, it actually kind of worked out because now he's on a mission. And he's got Congress, he's got the Senate, he's got SCOTUS on his side. And they raided his home, a former president with armed agents. So they overplayed their hand, and now it's time to...
They went through the First Lady's panty drawer.
Yeah.
Okay. They went
at the request of Joe Biden. At the request of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, Brooks, do you think that it's going to, is this an indication that it's going to be, no mercy? May God have mercy on my enemies, because I won't. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, I think the gloves are coming off, and by the way, that raid on Mar-a-Lago, they had shoot to kill. They had shoot to kill clearance.
Yep.
So all of those agents, and I totally agree with Steve on this, all those agents should not only be fired, they should go to jail for doing that raid, for going into another state and invading a man's home. The other thing is that when it comes to Matt Schlapp, of course he's a rhino. As he was running CPAC, a lot of J6ers who have been fully pardoned and are great patriots came, and they were blocked from entering. Then the bad press got out there because they did a bunch of Facebook shit posting out on the sidewalk. So Matt Schlapp said, "Oh, that's hurting our publicity. go ahead and let them in. We'll do a big photo op. So they did. And then they kicked him out again.
Yeah.
They kicked him out again. So Matt Schlapp is a total suck up rhino. I kind of like his wife, Mercedes. She does some good interviews on the radio and stuff, but Matt is a dick.
Yeah, he is a dick. He's Bill Crystal 2.0. So just absolutely a worthless pile of shit.
Well, he actually thought the presence of the J6ers was going to detract from the integrity of CPAC.
Well,
what a bunch
right.
of bullshit.
Look, and again, I'm going to say this again. I think at the end of the day, when we get to 4 years from now, 70% of the country's MAGA, 20% of the country is progressive nutbags, and then maybe 5-10% are the complete lunatic fringe commies, outright commies, trannies, and wait for it, the neocons and rhinos. They're like 5% of the Republican Party at this point.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of the influential positions, and I will say that Trump seems to have done a good job of getting them out of those positions. Okay, one other thing I wanted to talk about and add, which I should have started the show with, is I wanted to express condolences for the death of Clint Hill this weekend. Clint Hill was the Secret Service agent who jumped onto the back of the presidential limousine at the time of the John F. Kennedy assassination. As you guys recall, he was, and there's a picture, haven't looked it up, but there's a picture of him when Trump was in office the first time. He went to the Oval Office and took a picture right next to President Trump, along with a lot of other agents. And Clint Hill was a patriot who got caught in a very bad situation there. And again, I have a lot of a lot of interest in what happened on that day in Dallas, and I just wanted to say, rest in peace to Clint Hill, who was a public service. He was 93 years old, and I wish he could have stayed around long enough to watch the truth about what happened on November 22nd, 1963, be exposed. And I hope, and we're going to get to this later in the show, I hope that we get to that at some point in the near future. So, all right. One other thing that happened this week, which was pretty interesting, is a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, Eye Patch McCain, a.k.a. Dan Crenshaw, threatened to kill a respected member of the U.S. media, Tucker Carlson. Here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. If I ever meet him, I'll probably tell him.
He's the worst person.
Thank you.
Have you ever met Tucker?
What he said was, sorry,
We've talked a lot.
unfortunately they don't have a transcript for
If I
it.
ever meet him, I'll probably.
What he said was, if I ever met him, I'd kill him. But as this guy walks, we've talked a lot on Twitter. If I ever meet him, I'll fucking kill him.
We've talked a lot. If I ever meet him, I'll probably tell him.
So there you have it. If I ever meet him,
Have you ever-
I'll fucking kill him. Now, look, there are members of the U.S. news media that I'm not fond of, but I'm also not a U.S. representative, the House of Representatives. I'm not speaking of Rhino, I'm not a Rhino Eye Patch McCain like Dan Crenshaw. And I hear there's rumors he's going to be censured for this. Let's go back the other way. Brooks, should Crenshaw be removed? Not just censured, but removed from the House of Representatives.
Yeah, he should be removed. You can't make threats against the congressman, let alone the president. And one-eyed McCain, that's what we call him out here on the street. One-eyed McCain needs to go.
Yeah, Eye Patch McCain is my favorite nickname for him. Blake, what do you think about this particular incident? And do you think it'll amount to anything? Will it come to something?
Maybe. I mean, I'm embarrassed for him. Yeah, maybe he should be censured or removed. That's just unbecoming of a representative. Terrified of the press for no reason other than the fact that Tucker has exposed him as being a corrupt parasite in Congress. And so instead of trying to clear his name, and Tucker has invited him on the show, he's just going to threaten I mean, I know it's a hot mic and everything, but that's just ridiculous. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's threatening violence. It's pretty sad.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, Steve, because I had some guys. I saw some posts by some guys. I think they were Delta Force talking about Navy SEALs, and they said, "Look, they're frogmen. Okay, they're not tough. They're not special." He goes, "Any one of my guys on Delta Force could, rip their arms out of their sockets without them being able to do a damn thing about it." So his Navy SEAL thing is kind of exaggerated. Not that I really want to test it personally, but what do you think ought to happen?
Right.
What's that? Yeah,
Just stay to his right.
Just stay to his right. Yeah. What do you think ought to happen to a congressman who says this kind of thing in public? I mean, isn't it a little over the top?
Well, first of all, this guy is disliked not only by every Navy SEAL he's ever worked with or who knows anything about him. He's also disliked by every Special Forces member across the board in this country because he's just a lying parasite. He used his Navy SEAL status to get elected. And that's the other thing in this country. Please, just because somebody was a Navy SEAL, just because somebody was a Green Beret does not make them qualified to do anything.
Nor make them a
people in
patriot.
this country, they watch these movies and they think, oh, these people are like supermen and can do anything. And you have to look at the individual on a case-by-case basis, not just where they worked, but what did they do where they worked? How did they behave, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, absolutely, he needs to be removed.
Yeah, not to mention it doesn't make them loyal or make them a patriot, right? I mean,
No, I mean, there are guys that I worked with that when I was in, that the second they got out, they became mercenaries, actually in Mexico, working with drug cartels against our own country.
Yeah. So, and the thing is about Crenshaw is he ran as a conservative. He's been nothing of the sort. He is, they call him Eye Patch McCain because he's a backstabbing traitor, just like John McCain was. And he's got an eye patch. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement that we definitely should rid ourselves of people like that in the Congress. And that would give, I guess there'd be a special election or would give Governor Abbott a chance to appoint somebody who's a real America First conservative.
Abbott at this point would be allowed to appoint somebody, I'm pretty sure. And secondly, but the thing is, if you or I were to say that if we ever met Crenshaw, we were going to kill him, we would have every federal agent down our throat within a matter of hours.
Yeah, we'd be in trouble.
The thing is, he is threatening the life of a United States citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Federal law enforcement needs to be down his throat in a matter of hours.
Right. And, people say that jokingly, but this clearly was not a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke if you're talking to your buddy that is truly your friend. It's not a joke when you're talking about somebody that you detest.
Yeah. They need to investigate Mike's girl AOC for giving illegals advice on how to avoid ICE arrest. I hear a rumor this may be in the works, so we shall see about that. Meantime, lots of other things to report. Racist, race-baiting, bald, ugly sack of shit, Joy Reid got fired this week, and she's so upset about it all. Oh, you know what I season my drink with, Joy? Your liberal tears. That's what I season this. Oh, so good. Megyn Kelly, if you're on YouTube, did a great job of breaking this down.
Yeah.
And the reality is in the prime time slot, prime demographic, she was getting 59,000 viewers a night. That, let me give you an example. You can watch me on an 11-year-old rerun of Ancient Aliens, and I'm going to get 18 times, 10 to 20 times that audience. Unbelievable. Joy Red, not Joy Reid. Yes, thank you, Brooks. Yeah, we'll put that up in the chat. So, Steve, I don't think you really know or care about this person, but is it interesting maybe that MSNBC, they got new management there. Maybe they're coming on and they're saying, hey, time to get rid of all of these libtards because nobody wants to watch them anymore.
Well, if you want to have a successful station, then you got to get rid of these people because when you look at the market share that they're getting, it's pretty much zero. So they're spending money. They're not making any money back. So if you want to have a successful operation, regardless of what it is, you got to have the people employed that bring in the bucks, or you're out of business.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing about this, Blake, is that the way I heard it put, is that the agenda was far more important to them. That they thought that that they don't care if they make money at these networks because they're trying to push propaganda on people and influence elections. They failed completely at that. They got creamed in the last election, and their approval ratings only keep going down. Do you think this signals a sea state change in MSNBC, or what do you think?
I don't know what they're going to do. I thought they were talking about like getting rid of the station completely. They're just going to replace her with some other hacks. They just hired agitators and activists, and that's what she was. She's like a shock jock almost. And I didn't know their ratings were that bad. But if you're only polling 60,000, she's been on the air for years developing this. So if she's got 60,000 and she's at a 7:00 demo, and they're just losing money on her. There's no reason to keep her. So they just kept her around because she's hard to get rid of. But she's toxic and she's divisive and terrible.
Because you're racist.
She's like dog poop on a shoe.
Well, actually, the reason
hard to get off.
I think the reason they kept her around is because somebody had a USAID grant feeding MSNBC to keep her there.
Yeah.
Once that money got frozen, her salary was no longer covered. So she became an expense instead of a bonus.
Yeah, Brooks, I think that is definitely a possibility that needs to be considered, which is that, you see these people leaving their media jobs. Maybe they were always being funded by USAID or some other cover project like that all along, and if that's the case, maybe, these people, maybe that's how they've been making up the difference.
Because what happens is
without making any profit, because they haven't been making profit for years.
See, Congress appropriates the money. It goes out through U.S. aid. It comes back through an NGO, or in this case, a news organization, and that congressman gets to carve off a little bit for themselves when it comes back around. So it's just a big, fat, fucking money laundering operation.
Okay. In other news, James Carville, pictured here, James Carville said,
"That's a really good picture of him. Where'd you get it?"
It is. I got that right off his most recent appearance on Newsmax. He was on. I got to find the clip, and I don't have it, unfortunately. I wish I'd put it out. But Carville, who is, by the way, proof that humans and aliens have interbred, talked about how the Trump administration would collapse within the next 30 days. That he'd never seen such a rejection of an administration's agenda in just 3 or 4 weeks like this in his entire life. And that what was the other thing he said? He said that, you look at there's these town halls and they're just absolutely packed. Well, town hall.
Mike?
Yeah, again, my awesome internet service. Fuck you, Cox Cable. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, and and then there's town halls in Iowa. Well, they have these town halls in these heavily Democratic areas like New York City and a very heavily Democratic district in Iowa. And they had a few hundred people come out, and he was trying to make a big deal out of this. And he was on with, of all people, Andrew Cuomo. And while you guys are talking, I'm going to kind of go see if I can look for this, because it is really, I should have been better prepared. I didn't think we were going to go here tonight. But, we've changed. Anyway, Cuomo, he says, and so Trump is going down. Mark my words, he's going down, right? And Cuomo looks at him and he says, why? Why do you think that? Doge is at like 80% approval. Trump is at 55% approval and all this stuff. And he's like, what? Why do you think that? Carville sat there and pretended like he'd lost the signal and he couldn't hear him. And so then Cuomo goes, okay, thank you for being on, James Carville. Look, if Andrew Cuomo thinks you're nuts, you're fucking nuts. Anyway, comments. Steve, is James Carville relevant anymore at all? I mean, he's so dumb. He thought that because the Democrats had a better ground game, they were going to win, the election this year. He's so dumb. He still thinks it's 1992, right?
I mean, James Carville, he's just a spin doctor. That's what he was hired for. That's what he has been for the Democratic Party since he started with them. He just puts a spin on everything. He does really good sound bites, but he can't back up anything he says. Everything he says typically is a lie, but he gets it out there and he gets people stirred up, and that's exactly what they want.
Yep. And okay, so again, I've just paraphrased it, Brooks, but what do you think? What do you think about James Carville's prediction that the Trump administration will be no more inside of 30 days?
Yeah. It's just like when Maxine Waters gets up, or when Jasmine Crockett gets up, or when they talk about, or who is it? Jen Psaki says, and who's the other one? Jessica Tarloff. It gets up and says, all of them say the same thing, that Trump's numbers are tanking all over the board. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's completely not true. Yeah. I don't have the exact clip. Go ahead. Sorry.
But that's what they do. I mean, that's exactly what they do. They just spew lies, hoping that enough idiots and morons will attach themselves to it and repeat it. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm. And I think Jessica Tarloff is a lot hotter since they got rid of those long hairs on her chin.
Jessica Tarloff. Okay, Blake, do you have anything you'd like to add to this part of the conversation?
Well, he's always been one of the more colorful characters, but yeah, he's become a caricature of himself. He's the old school Democratic pollster, and it's funny for sound bites. He's always entertaining in these little bursts. Clearly, he's been in his own bubble for way too long and is completely out of touch with the regular electorate. But to give him credit, he does criticize a lot of these Gen Z astroturfed, extreme leftists, the TikTok influencers of the day. So I'll give them some credit on that.
Yeah.
They know they're having a little bit of moments of clarity here and there, trying to re-identify themselves.
And, people are saying, well, I don't know how his Republican wife can stand him. I don't know either. But keep in mind, Mary Madeline was a Bushite. Okay. Now, anybody who worked for Bush, I don't think you can take very seriously as a, quote, Republican or a true conservative. Because look, if you're a Republican or conservative, what Trump and Musk are doing under Doge is what we've talked about doing since the Reagan Revolution in 1980. Okay, they're actually shrinking government. They're actually ending programs. They're actually firing federal employees. They are actually reeling in the reach of the federal government, and they're actually reassigning. And we're going to get to this with the judges. Reassigning the traditional constitutional authority that the president is supposed to have. So I've never heard her say anything nice about Donald Trump. I haven't heard her say anything bad, but have you guys ever heard Mary Madeline speak well of Donald Trump when he's in fact executing the policies that she's supposedly in favor of? Not me. Okay. His black adopted daughter is so confused she ended up in porn. What? What? Sorry, I can't click on this thing.
Can't confirm that one. I'm not sure.
Never heard that before.
No.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one before either. Okay, well, apparently I didn't know about that. Apparently I lost my connection briefly again. But another thing happened on the streets yesterday. Alec Baldwin got confronted on the streets of New York City by none other than Donald Trump. Here's the video. Let's watch this.
Total pardon, because I want to be friends, right? I want to be friends. I will give you a total pardon for murdering that woman if you kiss the ring. Kiss the ring, Alec. Kiss the big, beautiful ring. Come on, Alec. Come on. Look at Alec Baldwin, right? He did that impersonation of me. It was not too hot, not too good. But look, we're back in office. You lost. Kamala lost. She's somewhere getting intoxicated. Look at that suitcase. Unbelievable. Well, Alec, if you don't want that pardon for murdering that woman in cold blood, You can call it first degree, you can call it whatever you want, but it was not good. She's looking down on me right now, smiling, happy. Thank you for confronting the man who took me out, who killed me, and that's okay.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
No, you realize, by the
Whoa.
way, no, look at me. I want you to look at me.
Sure.
You got a camera on me here?
The ring, no, it's the ring.
But you realize my kids live in this building, right? But I want you to know something.
We love the children. We're doing great deals for the children.
Listen to me real careful.
Okay.
If this camera was here, I'd snap your neck in half and break your you know that.
Okay. All right, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen, class act. Believe me. Believe me. Okay. Oh, he's yelling at me. I'm a citizen of this. I was born and raised in New York City. I love you, Alec. Alec, look, Alec, you don't want to attack your favorite president, Alec. Look, I love you. I love you, Alec. He's got more balls than De Niro, that I can tell you. De Niro ran away. Alec confronted. That's good. He's strong, but also he's weak because he murdered a woman. So that's okay, right? Look at this guy.
Guy does a pretty good Donald Trump impersonation. He also went there in New York looking for, as he said, looking for Robert De Niro outside of his house, and Bobby wasn't there. So, Steve, what do you think of this? And remember the Q post, guys. There will come a time when they cannot walk down the streets. Steve, what do you think of that? I thought it was hilarious.
No, I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was accurate. There is no way that Alec Baldwin accidentally killed that woman. No way. How he got off is beyond. Well, I know how he got off. He fought his way out of it. But the reality is, he did murder that woman. There is no question he murdered that woman, because there was no way physically or humanly possible to shoot her with a single action unless he intended to do so.
Yeah.
So it was as much truth as it was comedy.
Yeah. Brooks.
You have to pull the hammer back with a single action.
Yeah.
It's not like you just squeeze
they're saying that maybe he thought, of course, it was loaded with blanks. Which
yeah,
I guess
but she was offset. She was offset. She wasn't. Yeah. You could say that if she was like in the scene and he was the shooter in the scene. She was on a crane offset. He had to turn in her direction, cock the hammer back, aim it at her, and pull the trigger. She was not part of the scene.
That's the thing. And you never point a real gun, whether you believe it's loaded with blanks or not. You never point a real gun at a human being.
But you know how many people have been killed on set with blanks? A blank will kill you.
Yeah. Well,
if it's close enough, it will.
Yeah. A few. There was the guy in the cop show.
I mean, you can blind people. You can blind people for life. I mean, there's all kinds of damage can be done from a blank. So that's why you don't point it. I don't care if they're 20, unless even when I've worked at studios on movies, if they're using blanks, they do a camera angle so that the blank is not pointed at the other individual, because it can do so much damage.
Yeah. Oh, a blank. Exactly what is a blank, though, Steve? Explain that to me. Is it just like a paper cartridge, or
no? It's a cartridge that has a primer and powder in it, a very low amount of powder in it, and it just makes a loud bang, but no projectile comes out the end. However, there's enough pressure coming out of the end of whatever they're shooting it out of that can do great bodily harm, including death. So I mean,
there was a guy on set.
People have lost their eyes, people have lost their hearing, and people have lost their lives. So even in a joking manner, even if somebody's 10 feet away from you, you can still do damage with a blank.
Yep. TV's Blake Wally. What do you think of this guy? I think this comedian guy has guts, because Alec Baldwin is a nutbag, and he's already a murderer. What do you think of this particular confrontation? And I thought it was absolutely hilarious. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was funny, and he definitely takes some balls, because Alec Baldwin is, one of the more aggressive people towards paparazzi and people that would troll him, and he's probably not kidding. He would have attacked him if he wasn't on camera. So kudos to that. Yeah, this is a terrible tragedy. But yeah, he was always a mean-spirited Trump impersonator anyway. So he's always just been a dick. Nobody likes him, so might as well troll him in the streets.
Well, the other thing is he doesn't have his liberal friends to bail him out anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, and she was working on a documentary on human trafficking, the lady who was killed. So it is interesting. It is interesting. Brooks, any thoughts on this particular confrontation?
I don't really. I mean, you know, accidents happen, but also, you know, it's like playing in the street. So when you play with a firearm on set and you aim it at somebody and an accident happens, that's why they don't do it. And an experienced actor should know that. Even a newbie, you know,
At the very least, he should have been charged with involuntary manslaughter.
involuntary manslaughter. Exactly.
Right. Okay, so I'm trying to find a good post on this. There are a few things happening in terms of stuff that we'd like to see get done. And one of them is that Tulsi Gabbard says that she has found the people inside of the NSA. There was this is really bizarre. There was a group chat at the NSA where a bunch of workers on your time, on your dollar, went in and used to have sex chats about all sorts of insane gay tranny shit. And Tulsi Gabbard says, memo sent, we know who they are, action is underway. Now, the action she's talking about is firing these employees, now that it's very clear that you can fire government employees. But what's bothering me, and Sidney Powell replies right below, I don't know if you can see it because my screen's not, let's see, let's go full screen on this. Sidney Powell says they need to be prosecuted if they're conducting this behavior on government computers, which I believe it is well established that they were. We're going to get next to the Epstein list and some other things about Pam Bondi. Let's start with you, Blake. What should happen to these people? Is it enough to just fire them? Shouldn't they be prosecuted? Well, I should start with you, Steve, because you're the former corruption guy for the government. Let's start with you. These people need to be prosecuted, do they not?
Well, again, I haven't seen the evidence. At the very least, they need to be fired. I don't really know what kind of images and things they were posting. Some of it, if it's, when I say innocuous, if there's no children involved, there's no criminal activity involved in the postings of the photos, there's really not much you can prosecute them on.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume the evidence is there and they have the chat records.
If there's child porn, obviously they should be prosecuted. If there's,
right.
If there's any type of torture of, any individual, they should be prosecuted. But I mean, if it's just a bunch of people dressed up, a bunch of men dressed up as women, I mean, it'd be a real difficult case to prosecute.
Okay. Any thoughts on this one, TV's Blake Wally?
Well, they can certainly be called out and shamed. I don't know the severity of all of it, but I know they've had their own little secret channel, I guess, and they've said a lot of really stupid things, and they are kind of undermining the agencies and the credibility of our institutions. So they deserve to, or at least some of them, deserve to be punished, perhaps fired or let go somehow, or publicly shamed. I'm down with all of the above, depending on how bad it gets. I haven't seen all of it.
And definitely lose their security clearance for the rest of their life.
Yeah, well, they should lose their jobs and their security clearances. Brooks, any thoughts on this one as we get to?
It's kind of close to the bottom as far as bottom feeders. It's when they start trading, child porn and stuff like that. Which these guys, once you get into that, it's addicting, and I don't think they could be mentally treated. I think at the very least, they need to be out of the bureau or out of the government service, but they also should be prosecuted. And by the way, when is Pam Bondi going to release the Epstein? I don't want the client list. Screw that. I want to see the pictures. I want to see the videos. I want them made public so that we can see what congressmen, what senators, what world leaders, what cops, what generals have been sleeping with kids or doing lewd acts with a child on Epstein Island.
You
Those
know,
people need to fry.
based on what happened to Elon Musk this week, you should watch that statement because people could take that clip and twist it into meaning something completely different than it actually means. But you brought us to the next part, Brooks, which is Representative Anna Paulina Luna yesterday, hottie that she is, and apparently a former stripper, which is probably why I like her. And look, Anna, get me on your Kennedy committee. Said yesterday, tweeted out on February 11th and February 19th, House Oversight, that's her, sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking for status on releasing the Epstein files as well as the JFK, etc. The DOJ has not responded. It's now the 25th. I'm reaching out on X because we can't seem to get a response from the Attorney General. Attorney General Bondi, what is the status of the documents? These documents were ordered to be declassified. It is clear to me that somebody is stalling. And apparently it's Pam Bondi. Any speculation as to why that is? Blake, Brooks, Steve, Blake. What do you think's going on here? Because this should be out. Are they just waiting for the perfect moment to bring it out? Or what?
Yeah, well, there's enough public pressure on Pam Bondi right now. If she doesn't put up pretty soon, like in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, and when it comes to shit posting, I'm doing everything I can to retweet and to like everything that says, where are the Epstein files? What do you think's going on, Blake? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've definitely got some. Yeah, it's been sitting on her desk, and if the stuff has been declassified, I'm not sure about the Epstein list, but then there should be no delay because there's no need to go through and make any redactions if it's all declassified, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Right. But as far as the Epstein list, I think the biggest reason I can think of why they would try to slow walk it or maybe make some changes is if there is some sort of tie to Mossad or AIPAC or something like that. That's my best guess. I don't know the details. We'll have to find out once they actually do release them. I'm just glad that there is pressure, and there needs to be, because we're all waiting patiently, and it's been a while now. And so people are ready to hear the ugly truth, whatever that is, and take it from there.
Lance the boil.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if it's people that I like. I don't care if it's fucking Israel. Give it up.
Right.
Steve, why do you think they're holding back on this when we got the word 9-10 days ago that they were going to release this? Why do you think they're holding back on the Epstein list?
I think it's political. I think she's playing both sides of the fence. People are putting her under pressure from both sides, and she's trying to play the good guy and ride the fence. There's absolutely no reason. Once it's been declassified, once it's been said that it needs to go to the public, it needs to go to the public. And if there are people on that list that need to be prosecuted, then they all need to be prosecuted. Some or all need to be prosecuted, whatever the case may be. So there is absolutely zero reason to hold anything back because the president has said to release it. So my only conclusion is that, she's playing the rhino game or something.
Yeah. Which, again, Trump has been very disserved by his attorney generals.
And if she doesn't do it in the next couple of days, I want to hear from Trump saying you're fired.
Well, that's the thing I was going to ask you next is if we don't get this released by State of the Union a week from tonight, which we are going to be covering live, what do you think Trump will say about it, if anything?
I think she needs to be fired. When you're grab-assing with a 9-year-old, you need to be fired.
Yep.
I mean, the reality is in his last term, he appointed all these people who basically thumbed their nose at him, didn't do what he told them to do, fought against him. In this administration, in this time, day and age, when they start this nonsense and they don't do what he says in the time frame he says to do it, immediately you're fired, you're out. I told you to release it, you didn't release it, goodbye. I'm putting somebody else in there.
And I mean, again, he's been very disserved by the attorney generals he's had. He had Jeff Sessions, who did nothing and basically refused to use the power that he had as attorney general. He kowtowed to the traditions of the power structure in Washington. He got rid of him, Mr. Magoo, and then Bill Barr, of course, was a backstabbing traitor. Bushite. The only guy he had in there that was worth a shit was Matt Whitaker, and I never understood why he didn't just appoint Whitaker. Why the fuck didn't you just let Whitaker keep the job? And you know, because he kicked ass, and he totally knew what the Democrat scumbags were. And frankly, I would prefer him as Attorney General now than Pam Bondi, because I think we'd have the Epstein list and we'd have the JFK files, which I'm particularly interested in. And Brooks, what are you laughing about?
Well, did you love it when Whitaker told Gerald Nadler that his time had expired?
Yeah, you're Jerry Nadler. Yeah, Jabba the Nadler. Yeah, when Kate stepped aside, I knew we were screwed. I'm beginning to be concerned about there were people who questioned Pam Bondi.
I mean, you don't accept an assignment, an appointment from the president of the United States and then not do what he tells you to do. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And if you're not going to do what you're told to do, goodbye.
Yeah.
Because we know that the FBI tampers with and covers up evidence. They went to Epstein Island. There were drones that filmed FBI jackets all over the place, scooping up every bit of evidence and hard drive they could find. We want it exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Okay, another thing happened this week. You know, the Dems are really pathetic and desperate, and they are doing anything they can to try to make people turn against Doge. In fact, hey there.
Intruder alert.
They're trying to do anything they can to smear Elon Musk's reputation. And one of the things they did is they deliberately cut a video making it look like he walked off the stage and abandoned his toddler. And then, of course, 30 seconds later, the actual full video from another angle was released. And this was Elon Musk leaving the stage the other day. I think it was at CPAC. So let's just play this and watch what Dad really did with his little kid named Hector.
I always say we have to be protective of our geniuses because we don't have too many. But that one is, when I watched his rocket come down about 3 months ago, and I thought it was crashing, and I was talking to somebody on the phone. By the way, same thing happened yesterday, came down.
Okay, so it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that he did not abandon his toddler. Brooks, you've had a toddler, haven't you? I mean,
oh my gosh, all my boys would do that.
Couldn't be in a safer, more secure environment with all his personal and private security around there. Come on,
and all those people clapping, and X runs out there, and goes, yeah, like that, and then he's on the stairs waving to people. That was great.
I mean, Steve, is there anything the liberals, the left wing, will not stoop to try to poison poison the rhetoric, poison the conversation between the American people and the current administration?
I mean, we spent 4 years sifting through disinformation. There is absolutely nothing they will not do to tarnish the reputation of anyone who is trying to do the right thing. That's what they do. When people are strong and they're moving forward and they're getting the job done, they're going to do anything and everything they can to badmouth them and make them look horrible.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Blake, any thoughts on this one? Isn't it? I hate to say it's beneath them, but it's not beneath the left. In Twitter, you have the people that you're following, and then you have the For You tab. And I go into the For You tab once in a while to see what the nutbags are thinking. And they're saying all this crazy shit, And it's like, I realize these people are unreachable and they're insane. Is there any way that we can stay married to these people, or do we need to find them their own country?
I mean, I got in a fight. I was shit posting today where a lady actually believes that if we do not send billions of dollars, continue to send billions of dollars to the Ukraine, life as we know it will be over.
Yeah.
And she believes that. She believes it.
She's not. They're nuts. They're absolutely fucking nuts. Blake, any thoughts on Elon Gate there? What happened with the kid?
Yeah, these people are being poisoned with propaganda, and it's pretty sad that they would have to stoop to that level and actually kind of doctor videos just so that they can fit a narrative and get their readership all riled up. I wish there was a way where people could force them to get a different perspective on the news rather than being completely insulated because they believe the propaganda that they're getting, and it just makes them more and more insane.
I wish they could be held criminally and civilly liable, like instantaneously. How many? I mean, look what they did on the different interviews with Trump, how they would change the camera angle or they would cut out what he said. You know, I mean, not just him, anybody that's pro-American, anybody that's pro-American, anybody who's a patriot, they try to make you look horrible.
Yeah, they try to make him look orange. He's not orange in real life. I know several people that have met him, and he doesn't use the spray tan. And so they use AI to just make him look orange, and he's not like that in real life. And it's been insane. They've been going on for a long time on that.
Well, they'll change the rhythm of the voice. They'll slow it down, speed it up, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Okay. Ukraine update. Dr. Brooks Agnew, I want to obviously going to go to you first on this one. Let's change to our Ukrainian flag back there. According to some reports, a peace deal has been reached between Russia, Ukraine, and the USA. It says that Zelensky is flying to the USA to sign the deal made by President Trump. In return, the U.S. gets 50% of the revenue from Ukraine's mineral wealth, rare earths that they apparently have there, as repayment for money spent on the war. Ukraine will not join NATO. Ukraine will concede the territory that the Russians hold, which is all Russian-based, Russian-speaking people. And Salty Gut says, liberals, go ahead and start crying. This shit is over. How serious do you think that this really is, Brooks? And what do you hear about it? I mean,
here's what I'm hearing. The deal is serious. That the 5 Russian states, which is Crimea and Lugansk and Zaporizhia, and Donetsk, those 5 states on the eastern side, which have been Russian for about 1,400 years.
Yeah, longer. Okay, 1,400. Right. Okay.
That they're going to remain Russian, and that Russia's not going to take any more territory, and NATO is not going to put any equipment or soldiers or anything into Ukraine. So Zelensky's coming to allegedly sign this deal, but I think he's coming to allegedly, or not allegedly, he's going to open his mouth and he's going to say, I'll agree to all this as long as NATO gets to come into Ukraine. In other words, give me victory and I'll surrender.
Okay.
They need to obfuscate him and just say, look, why don't you go live in one of your mansions down in Florida and get out of the public picture, and let's stop the dying.
Yeah. Okay. Blake, it appears there is a deal on the table that's sort of been accepted. I mean, you think that this is going to happen? Any thoughts on what this might mean? I'm actually trying to look up some more details on it.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Is Zelensky really coming to the U.S.? Is that really happening? Brooks, do we know?
I don't know. I know the invitation is there, but I've also heard as recently as 6 hours ago that he said he's not agreeing to anything that doesn't allow NATO to come in. He's totally bought and paid for. He's their stooge. He's doing what they tell him.
Yeah, he's the Joe Biden of Ukraine. Okay. Any other thoughts on this from either one of you guys, Steve or Blake?
Well, I mean, Europe, the European Union, they say that they're going to send troops in to assist him and back him up, that NATO needs to come into the country. And the thing is, it's like, good, let them spend their money, let them send their people in there, let them get, the crap beat out of them, and eventually they'll come to realize that a deal needs to be made. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody that, other than the U.S., because we don't need to send another penny there, every one of these countries that back them, send them in. Go get the crap kicked out of you. Go spend a lot of money that you don't have, and go bankrupt for all I care.
It appears, looking at at Twitter X right now, it appears this is a deal that is on there, and it's not from any like high level official sites, but a lot of people, different international people are reporting. Reporters are saying, yeah, it's done, and those are the terms. And the interesting thing about it, Steve, is that Canada and France and all these countries and Britain tried to get together and say, no, we'll come in and defend you. We'll come in and defend you. And it seems like Zelensky took Trump's deal instead. So
I mean, the reality is all of those countries militarily are weak. Whenever you look at any situation that they're involved in, they are losers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anytime that there's any conflict that we're involved in and those countries are involved in it, the people who get in trouble beg for the United States armed forces to come to their rescue because they know the other ones will do absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
they are losers from the word go. They have no military prowess whatsoever. So go on in there, have at it. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, we had to rescue them twice in the last century from the Germans. They'd all be speaking German now if it wasn't for the United States, and they've never really defended themselves at all. So
you gotta be willing, and they're not willing. They just want to run around, pound their chests, and pretend like they're the bad boys on the block, and they're the biggest cowards in the world.
Well, they wouldn't be able to defend Ukraine without United States logistical support and military might. There's no question about that. So we'll wait and see if this actually comes to fruition. Okay, one last thing. Canada. Trudeau went to the NATO countries yesterday or the day before and tried to get them to turn against Trump and tried to convince Zelensky to take this deal. And instead, it appears Zelensky's taken Trump's offer. Should the United States, here's the question, and I want to start with you, Blake. Should the United States just immediately cut? We're talking about tariffs. Why tariff them? Just cut off their $238 billion in aid today. Should we just do that? Since they keep taking sides against us, they say, oh, well, we're your closest ally. Well, if you're our closest ally, why are you always taking sides against us on environmental agreements and in military matters? Should we just cut them off and let the country die and come begging to us to be the 51st state?
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, they're teaming up with the globalist syndicate. So whether Trudeau steps aside is not that is an issue. I don't know who else they're going to replace them with. They're also poisoned with their state media propaganda system. So maybe the people would rather be with us. So maybe we cut them off. It's just going to be a little tough love because, I think this is a great deal. If they can make that with Zelensky or whoever, just Ukraine, they need to have free elections again. They need to get if the people want Zelensky, then they can vote him again. They need to hold a new election. A lot of those parts in those territory, the peoples that in Donbass or Crimea, they'd rather be a part of Russia. We should let that happen, and we need to get some of our money back because we've dumped tens of billions in there with the. So if they can get that with the rare minerals, that's great. And no NATO, that is part of the deal. That's always been part of the deal. They have to remain neutral. So
it's bizarre here that we're actually. NATO is so corrupt that we have to take sides against our own alliance to be on the right side of history and to stop the wars and to defend human beings who just want to live in peace. And it's amazing how upside down the world has become from what we believed it to be in, say, 1980. It's just, to me, Steve, it's like overwhelming. Back when you were a young man, Steve, and so handsome, like that handsome picture in the video that we used to open the show. So if Zelensky runs, Steve, do you think he has the slightest prayer of winning the election, a fair election in Ukraine?
No, he's going to win. He's going to win, but it's going to be corrupt. And as far as all these other countries backing him, I say we cut off all of the funding going to them immediately, because if they're going against us, they're not our allies. And secondly, I do not want Canada as a 51st state. As far as I'm concerned, Canada they can go broke and belly up. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want them to be allowed to vote in any election. I don't want all their Indians that they brought in with their phony certificates. operating as medical doctors being allowed to come to the United States. I don't want anything to do with those. I won't go
No,
there. I don't want anything to do with them.
I would be willing to grant them statehood under the following conditions:
That they can't vote.
That they only get 3 electoral votes and they can't vote for 25 years.
Yeah, because I don't want a bunch of. I don't want a bunch of.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I mean, they're horrible. I mean, they have allowed refugees, so they call them,
but
to
again,
take over their country.
You have to remember, Steve. Again, the Soros communist globalists have corrupted that country. You do not know how the Canadian people in general really feel about their government.
I know they're cowards, and I know they're wimps, and I know they don't stand up to their government.
They are wimps. I lived there for 3 years. They're passive-aggressive pussy farts. But the truth is, I believe there's a much stronger conservative thought process in Canada and voters in Canada than there are liberal. And I believe if they're
they certainly don't stand up and be counted.
Yeah,
if they're there,
hockey players though, they can really play hockey.
Not that great. Not that great. Yeah.
They're not that great either. We beat the crap out of them there. I don't like the fact that they are cowards, that they do nothing, that they allow these Muslims to take over cities and streets, and the rank and file citizen does nothing about it. They're just like the English. Yeah, they're useless. They're freaking useless. And
well, you know what the difference is? You know what the difference is between a Canadian and an Englishman, don't you, Steve?
What?
Canadian has a maple leaf on his turban.
Okay.
Okay. Brooks, any thoughts on the
I know the difference between a Canadian and a New Yorker. A New Yorker will say, hey, get off the car. And a Canadian will say, get off the car, hey.
Get off the car, eh? Yeah, apparently it's true that this raw minerals deal is happening. There's a Canadian posting. He said, dear Canadians, Trump has just secured a massive raw minerals deals with the Russia and Ukraine for the U.S. No amount of money printing, winning hockey games, or by a Canadian boycotting will get us out of this. I do not want my family to be in poverty because of socialist hubris. There are a lot more Canadians who feel that way than you guys think. Okay.
Did you see the election in Greenland or Iceland?
No, I did not.
Iceland voted overwhelmingly to join the United States and leave Denmark.
Iceland?
Who doesn't want to leave Denmark?
I didn't know Iceland was under Denmark.
Or Greenland. I'm sorry, Greenland.
Greenland. Yeah. Well, good for them. And we now know Canada's
Greenland's very
we now know how they feel about it. So, all right. Next week is the State of the Union address. I believe it will be significant at this point. I'm looking for a lot of financial information. We didn't talk about the gold at Fort Knox, which I think is really important for us to discuss real quickly. Let's do that. I want to look for one thing because, as I understand it, there has been a preview audit of Fort Knox, and I'm going to show you guys here what exactly they have uncovered in Fort Knox. They have cracked open the vaults, and this is what they found.
Nice.
Eggs.
The gold is gone, but the eggs are there. And
they stole those from me.
Yeah, it's enough to pay off the national debt. All right. There's been a lot of noise this week, gentlemen, about going into Fort Knox. Doge going in and auditing the gold. Now, I had Andy Sheckman on, who's the owner of a metals company called Miles Franklin. If you're going to buy gold or silver, buy it from Andy. I think there's a link in the description to this video, and I will get you a discount because Andy's a friend of mine. And Besant, who is the new Treasury Secretary, says we audit the gold in Fort Knox every year. And Andy's been in this metals business for 40 years, and he said, that's not true. I've never heard that. They haven't audited it since like 1973, so over 40 years. So he's lying. So I just want to go before we get out of here. What do you think if we do go into Fort Knox and Elon's talking about live streaming it, of course using Starlink, right when they go into the vaults? Steve, let's start with you. What do you think they're going to find in there?
Well, I know that the gold markets have some serious shortages because someone in the U.S. who they have yet to identify has been buying all the gold around the globe and having it shipped to the United States.
Yes.
So that makes me think that they're trying to get those vaults full again.
Yep.
They're trying to make Fort Knox great again and full of gold as quickly as they possibly can.
Pull a fast one. And I'm sure that the Trump administration knows about that. Blake, do you have any thoughts about this? I mean, look, I'm just going to tell you, it's inevitable that we're going back to a gold standard. That's inevitable. I hear it's going to be announced at the State of the Union or shortly thereafter.
Wow. So what do you think will happen to the price of gold? Will it go to like $3,000 an ounce pretty quick?
It will. It will actually should go way beyond that, and silver will follow with it. And anything linked to gold or silver in terms of value will, like cryptos, I think XRP is linked to the value of gold. And here's the other thing that's a little complicated to sort out. But if we right now, all the gold in Fort Knox, it was valued at $34 an ounce. It's now at $44 an ounce. So if Trump simply announces the value of the gold in Fort Knox, and we just found 11,000 metric tons in the vaults, is now valued at the current market rate, which is $3,000. That generates about $36.5 trillion in value, which, guess what, pretty much pays off the so-called national debt.
True enough.
Overnight. And then if the value of that gold goes from 3,000 to 5,000 an ounce or 10,000 an ounce, guess what? We're even richer than that. Anyway, Blake, what do you think they're going to find in there? Are they going to open it up and find out there's no gold in there, which I think there wasn't for a long time? They're going to open it up and find, all the gold's still there. What do you think we're going to find? What's going to happen?
I would be pretty nervous about that. I mean, yeah, it's like, I think it's been 1974, so we're talking 50 years. So that seems like they've got something to hide if it's been that long. There's just no excuse to not have an audit for that long. Yep. So maybe they've got enough time where they can import it, or who knows. But I think if you would have gone in there like a couple of months ago, just like a surprise, we're here to audit. I don't know if that stuff is there. So I don't know how that's going to affect the future gold standard or any of that. So I'll try to be optimistic. But when you go 50 years, it tells me that they're hiding something.
Okay, here's Tucker Carlson. He said there was 18,000 tons of gold during World War II. The last time we got, it was 1971. It was 8,100 tons. And now it's supposedly officially 4,583 metric tons. Where did all that gold go? And again, I'm going back to, what is the first thing Donald Trump did practically when he took office in 2017? He went to visit England and the Queen, and he went to visit the Vatican, two of the biggest creditors of the United States corporation. And I have a feeling he told them, we own you now, and we want all of our gold back. And if you don't give it to us, we're going to come and fucking take it. So, Brooks, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, I can't decide which would be more beneficial, not only to me as an investor and you as an American, whether there's no gold in there, which collapses the fiat currency system and requires that we then go out and appear to acquire gold to go to a gold-backed currency, or whether we open it up and there's 10 times more gold in there than we thought, and we just say now it's valued at the current market rate, and boom, the United States is the most prosperous country on earth with no debt whatsoever. What's better?
Well, either way, it works out pretty well. If they go in there and it's nothing but spider webs, Al
Capone's vaults, right?
Yeah. They could just go back to the 1870 America and just say there's no faith and credit in this fiat currency America anymore. So we're going to revert back to the original 1870 non-corporate America, and it's not in debt.
Yeah. Okay. But any predictions, gentlemen, on any of that stuff? Well, okay.
Well,
let's go to the State of the Union. Let's go to the State of the Union.
Yeah, I think the State of the Union, something may be said about it. I don't know if they get the audit done by then. If there's that much gold in there, it takes a while to walk through it. And yeah, it looks gold to me.
You have to pull gold bars out and drill into them.
That's right. Yeah, they could be
tungsten.
It could be gold-plated tungsten for all we know.
Yeah. All right, you guys, let's do one last thing before we get out of here then today. And again, there's so many more things we could have talked about that we didn't get around to. What's your one prediction for next week? And we're going to do a live stream of the State of the Union next week. What's your one big prediction for the State of the Union next week? Mine is that there is going to be some announcement of a new gold currency or gold standard, something along the lines of having to do with the U.S. and gold. Steve, any thoughts? Epstein list, arrests?
I'm hoping that he announces that the FBI will be moving forward and investigating and arresting certain people.
Okay. Blake, any thoughts on what will be the big news story that will come out of the State of the Union next week?
Let's hope at least one of these declassified cases comes to fruition, whether it's MLK, JFK, RFK. I'm probably not that as optimistic on the Epstein list, but at least maybe if one of them comes out and we get the full truth on it, I think that would be obviously very good for America. It'd bring our confidence back.
Brooks.
Well, there was a mini-series, a limited series that just came out called 0 Day. And in this limited series, about 8 or 9 congressmen get arrested for treason. And I think it's very popular right now. I think it's the number one TV series out there now. It's on Netflix if people want to watch it. The acting is superb, even though Robert De Niro is starring in it. But the storyline is that the Speaker of the House and several Democrats and Republicans plotted to establish this new authority for the Patriot Act that would give them the ability to arrest whoever they wanted, when they wanted, with suspending habeas corpus. But it gets discovered, and they end up going to jail for treason. So I think it was kind of a type in a shadow, because I seriously think there are going to be some, not just bureaucrats, but elected officials arrested for treason.
Do you guys remember when Saddam...
And public hangings should come back.
Yeah. Do you guys remember when Saddam Hussein did the thing way back in the 80s, I think it was, and he addressed the assembly, and he called out individual people for corruption. And then the guards came and they took them all out, and they took them out of the building, and they all got executed immediately.
That's right. Shot him.
Fucking awesome. Adam Schiff, you have been selected for treason. Here's the evidence against Adam Schiff. It's on the website. Take him out. That would be fun. That would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see it happen. All right, guys. That is going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts from anybody? Let's see what happens next week. Special show, State of the Union address with the president. We're going to live stream it and hope that we get some really big news to talk about, rather than just more it's coming stuff. So we'll wait and see what happens. We'll see you back there then. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Steve? Blake? Brooks? Anything?
Don't forget, Glance of Angels is now in print. You can pick it up at Amazon.
I'm glad, and I think we're all glad that Brooks is back. It's always a pleasure to spend an hour and a half with him every week.
Are you kidding? The pleasure's mine. I love you guys. I wouldn't miss this show for anything.
This is a great show. The thing is, we have a small audience, but the people who watch us love us. So guess what? Like, subscribe, and tell people about the show, and send links. Okay. So
I get a lot of mail from listeners to this program. They like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's a little different than the other shows I do, that's for sure. So, all right, guys, that is going to wrap it up. I will be back tomorrow with Tell the Truth Wednesday. Jen will not be joining me. She is on vacation, but we will be discussing the latest news on finances and what's going on in the financial world. It is going to be interesting. And wow, I think Brooks might have the best biceps of the group.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
Brooks has got it, man. Yep. Built his house.
Hard work, and lots of
Jordan, I
protein.
have a serious question.
Yes.
Can you still do a push-up?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Let's have a great one. Everybody enjoy yourselves. We will see you next Tuesday for the State of the Union address. And wow, I wish we had a lip reader that could lip read the conversations, because remember in 2020, it was wild. They were all all the Democrats and the rhinos were talking about how Trump was going to be assassinated at that State of the Union. That is wild stuff. Let's see what happens this time. I think this will be an even better
Unlike
State.
Rush Limbaugh getting the Medal of Freedom.
That was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow.